Reflections of July 1st. For many, today is a celebration. For me, and for countless Indigenous peoples, July 1st is a national day of gaslighting. It's the annual parade of denial dressed in red and white. It's a day that demands we forget, that we forgive, that we smile, while our hearts still hold the echoes of genocide, the ache of lost children, and the scars of a country built without us. Land and sovereignty, the unhealed wound. Confederation in 1867 wasn't birth, it was occupation. It unfolded without our consent, without our inclusion, without our voices. Despite the Royal Proclamation of 1763, where the Crown promised to respect Indigenous title, those promises were trampled the moment Canada found profit in expansion. In British Columbia, over 95% of the land remains unceded, never bought, never surrendered, never negotiated. Yet pipelines pierce our territories, old-growth forests fall to industry, and our stewardship is treated like trespass. This isn't a birthday party. It's a celebration on stolen earth. The Indian Act, shadows still cast. Passed in 1876 and still in effect, the Indian Act is a colonial control codified into law. It governed whether we could leave reserves without permission. It criminalized our ceremonies, the potlatch, the Sundance, dictated who we were and who we could be. Today, it still defines our identities through blood quantum and government registries, a tool of erasure wrapped in bureaucracy. We're navigating the 21st century, shackled to a 19th century system that refuses to die. Reform isn't justice when the structure was built to erase us. Residential schools, the children who never came home. Over 150,000 Indigenous children were forcibly taken into 139 residential schools. They were beaten for speaking their language, starved for discipline, and buried in unmarked graves far from their families who were never told. As of 2024, over 2,000 suspected burial sites have been found, and the ground hasn't finished speaking. We walk with the ghosts of those children every day. The laughter that was silent still echoes in our bones. The children taken yesterday and today. The pipeline of child removal never stopped. From residential schools to the 60s Scoop and now the current Millennial Scoop, our children are still being taken. As of 2021, Indigenous children make up over 53% of children in foster care in Canada, despite only being 7.7% of the child population. In BC, those odds are even worse. An Indigenous child is 17 times more likely to be removed. This is not ancient history. It's state-sanctioned family separation happening right now. Broken promises, treaties unhonored. Over 70 treaties were signed in so-called good faith. They were agreements of coexistence, not surrender. Yet reserves remain chronically underfunded. Over 27 First Nations still don't have access to clean drinking water as of mid-2024. How can a nation build pipelines faster than it can deliver clean water? How can it throw fireworks while people are boiling rainwater to survive? This isn't shared prosperity. It's colonial neglect masquerading as progress. The unseen burden, systemic disparities. Two Canadas exist, separated by race, geography, and legacy. Indigenous people have a life expectancy 5 to 15 years shorter than non-Indigenous people. We're more likely to die from preventable diseases, more likely to be denied care, more likely to leave hospitals in body bags because racism killed us before the illness did. And our children, they're taught settler pride, but not their own people's truth. This is not an accident. It's curriculum designed to erase. Stolen Sisters, the unanswered questions. Over 5,500 Indigenous women and girls have gone missing or have been murdered in the last few decades. They disappear on the highway of tears, in the city alleyways, in silence. The response? Indifference, denial, inaction. We light candles not just in mourning, but in rage, because every unanswered question is a policy failure. Every sister stolen is a story the system chose to forget. The land suffering our shared loss. When we say we are the land, it's not metaphor. It's biology, it's blood memory. So when the salmon vanish, when tailings poison the rivers, when sacred mountains are carved into mines, we don't just grieve, we bleed. This isn't the cost of progress. It's ecological genocide. And when the land screams, the sky chokes, the waters turn to poison, we all pay that price. The unseen epidemic, loss upon loss. The toxic drug crisis is not random. It's a continuation of colonial harm. Intergenerational traumas have left our communities in a constant state of mourning. In 2023 alone, over 2,500 people died in BC from toxic drugs, with Indigenous people overrepresented by nearly 5 times the rate. This is an addiction. It's grief, untreated. It's pain, criminalized. We whisper their names to the stars not because we've moved on, but because we're still trying to breathe through the next funeral. Reconciliation, the hollow echo. Apologies don't bury the dead. Commissions don't restore languages. Funding announcements don't unearth justice. Reconciliation without systemic transformation is theater, and we will not perform our pain so Canada can feel absolved. Until power is returned, land is returned, and children stay in their communities, reconciliation remains an empty promise. Closing thoughts, carrying the weight. I don't mark this day with celebration. I mark it with remembrance, resistance, and responsibility for the ancestors who walked these lands 25,000 years before Confederation, for the children buried beneath schoolyards, abandoned, for the sisters whose faces still hang on lampposts. True healing begins not with parades, but with truth, not with fireworks, but with accountability. Not with one day of reflection, but with a lifetime of action. Until then, we tend the embers of memory. We carry the weight with dignity. We pray for a dawn where this land can finally breathe. These are just a few of the reasons why I do not celebrate Canada Day.